Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Comprehensive D&D 5e Guides, the show where I do an in-depth look into the various classes in 5th edition D&D and help you to understand how they were designed to be played and how to get the most out of these classes. If you watch my channel regularly, you'll know that my last video was about the ranger, and I talked about quite a few things that just make the ranger just an inopportune class in general. It's not optimized very well. A lot of its ideas are good ideas, but they fight against each other. And I mentioned I'm going to talk about the revised Ranger in my next video. Well, this is my next video, and it's time for us to talk about the revised Ranger. Now, the revised Ranger was an article that came out back in 2016. Um, and it kind of rebuilt the Ranger and offered three um, ranger conclaves is what they call them, instead of archetypes from the PHB. I'm only going to look at two of the conclaves because they're basically the same as the uh, archetypes from the ranger, because I really want to show you what the revised Ranger does differently and how it solves a lot of the problems I talked about before. Now, one thing of note, again, they released this back in 2016. There have been no efforts to rewrite the Ranger class. Now, they have released a few new subclasses for it that do a lot to make the Ranger more playable. So the non-PHB subclasses for the Ranger are actually a little bit more balanced and a little more fun to play. But they haven't actually implemented these specific changes because it would require basically saying the PHB version of the Ranger is eroded out. Um, so just understand why I prefer this version of the Ranger with a few exceptions. Um, this is not an official D&D version of the Ranger, though. I hope someday they do take uh, do something to the PHB Ranger, because like we said, it's not a very fun class. So let's just go to this. There's not a whole lot of that changes in the build of the Ranger itself. It's same hit dice, same proficiencies, all that. Favorite enemy is where we get the first big change, and that's right at level 1. Now, if you remember, um, in 5th edition, you want to give the class defining abilities within the first two levels. And as we talked about before, the idea of the Ranger and the theme of the Ranger are they are these very wilderness based fighters in general. Um, they should feel at home in nature. They should be great kind of hunters, stalker kind of people, and they should be able to fight best when they're in their natural environment. Um, so one of the things Rangers has always had is a favorite enemy. We've talked about it before. The old one, all it did is help you track it better and recall info about it better, which had limited help. The favorite enemy in the revised Ranger changes things quite largely. First, there's actually a smaller number of types you can choose as a favorite enemy. Um, you do beasts, fae, humanoids, which wasn't a type before. You could choose two kinds of humanoids before. Now humanoids is just a type. Monstrosities or undead. So you'll notice it's missing quite a few other things like dragons and things. We'll get to that in a little bit, but suffice it to say, your beginning favorite enemy is going to be a little bit different. The other really big difference is you gain a +2 bonus to damage rolls with weapon attacks against creatures of the chosen type. So again, when you look at older versions of the Rangers, they always did more damage to their chosen enemy, which again can be a little hit or miss because if you're you know favorite enemy is let's say it's Fae, and you're doing a campaign in the Underdark where there's not a ton of fake creatures there, you have a much better chance of dealing with fiends than you do Fae. Um, so that can be a little bit rough, which is why giving a bonus to the damage rolls is kind of important, because it's not going to be something that always works for you. Um, but when it does work, it should be something significant. Um, so that right there, that completely changes the ranger. Again, the ranger is a hunter that has a specific prey that they're good at hunting. We've covered that before. This really exemplifies that, where the ranger now actually knows the creatures so well, it knows where to hit it and do more damage. So very important. And it seems like such a minor thing, just an extra two damage. It changes how the ranger plays. It'll change how the ranger makes decisions. Now, favorite enemy still gives you advantage on survival checks to track it, and on intelligence checks to recall information. The other thing, the other one, the PHB Ranger, was you got to learn a language that your favorite enemies spoke. This one changes it a little bit, um, to you learn a language of your choice, typically one spoken by your favorite enemy or creatures associated with it. However, you're free to pick any language you wish to learn. Because they put those little caveats of, well, it could be a language your um, prey, your favorite enemy speaks, or people associated with them. That really gives you a much better idea of how lore wise you're learning this language. Because let's say you deal with undead. Undead kind of grunt and groan a lot. There's not a language. However, necromancers tend to deal with undead a lot. Um, so do shadow dragons. Both of those creatures have languages they use. If you're in the Forgotten Realms, um, Fae is real famous for all the stuff they do with necromancy. So you might learn Thayan. You might learn their specific language, or you might learn deep speech or undercommon, since undead don't generally people that use undead don't generally tend to deal a whole lot with nicer people. Or it could be that you undead are your thing because there was a shadow dragon that used to harass your town, and so you learned draconic, simply because all the undead were coming from a shadow dragon. See, it gives you much more ability to really have a lore based and a character based reason to know these languages, and it doesn't limit you at all by saying, hey, pick any language you want, use any justification you want, but it's useful. um, so we do that, and then the other thing you get at level one, just like before, is natural explore, which again, that's the idea of they're a hunter that's at home in the wilderness. And again, but before, the only thing that natural explorer did to you for you was difficult terrain that was plant based, didn't slow you down, which was very hit or miss. And then a bunch of things about travel, which again, a lot of campaigns just ignore. This Natural Explorer changes things crazy. Now you just ignore the difficult terrain, which is a big deal. Difficult terrain is a very useful skill to separate parties out and split parties and things like that. If you have a very intelligent bad guy, they will use that to make it more difficult to do things like feed someone a healing potion. Because they'll make it twice as hard to get to them. Rangers don't have to deal with that. And again, from a lore perspective, it makes sense. They're climbing over mountains and rocky crags, and you know, through undergrowth and all this. Like, it makes sense that they're just good on their feet, and it's not because it's natural terrain. Like, terrain that's difficult to walk across is going to be difficult to walk across, whether it's plants or if it's someone just threw uh a bomb that cracked the ground. It's the same basic skill of you have to understand how to use your feet and step in the right place. So that makes sense. The other thing, and this is, in my personal opinion, is a little bit. I mean, it's flirting with overpowered, but it definitely makes a ranger a unique character, and that is you have advantage on initiative rolls. Um, my the ranger I play has a whip of warning, which gives you two abilities. One, you can't be surprised, and two, it gives you advantage on initiative rolls. It is so incredibly useful, and I believe barbarians get that at a much later level. But having it right at level one means the ranger is going to be the first person to act most of the time. They're generally a dex based class already. They now have advantage on an initiative. It's really really good. And then the thing after that really kind of cements them as, again, this very good hunter style, stalker style fighter. On your first turn during combat, you have advantage on attack rolls against creatures that have not yet acted. So again, if anyone's ever hunted, it's very rare in hunting that you're actually out walking like you see in, cartoons and that, where you're walking around. I'm hunting wabbits. Hunting a lot more often is you find a spot and you sit and you wait for your target to appear. And even if you are, slinking through, which does happen, you're trying to ambush the target. That's what hunting is. You sneak up very softly and quietly, and you get the first attack. That fits into this so much. This idea that they get advantage on initiative rolls. They're used to being the first one to take action, because otherwise, as soon as that deer notices you, they're gone, and you're not getting a shot. So not only are they good at going first, but they're also so used to getting the jump on people that they know where to hit them in that first thing to do maximum damage, because that's a very hunter thing to do. Um, that's the other thing. When you combine both of those, it's flirting with overpowered. It's not. It's kind of like rogues and their um, uh, I can't remember their skills. They get extra. They can double their proficiency bonus. I can't remember what it's called now. Anyway, that is like flirting with overpowered, because there's a few things that rogues do that they're just almost never going to fail once they get above like level 8 or not 9. They're just never going to fail their stealth checks. They're never going to fail their thieves tools checks. They're just, I mean, they get 30 plus rolls regularly. um so yeah. So it's flirting with overpowered, but again, because of how underpowered it was before, I think this really balances this it out and would make this a very fun class to play. And again, a very unique class to play. It's not going to feel like a fighter with a few extra weird skills, or a rogue that's really good at range or something. No, the ranger is going to feel very unique in this abilities. So and then Natural Explorer does still give you all the overland abilities as well, because that again, it fits with the theme of the character, and because both favored enemy and the Natural Explorer now have two different ways that they're useful, they both actually have use in a regular basis, as opposed to before, where they were both very much kind of lore role-playing type skills and had nothing to do with the combat aspect of fifth edition, which is a large part. Whether or not you like the combat focus of just RPGs in general, combat's a big part of fifth edition. And rangers, again, as hunters, they're kind of built for combat. Short, sweet combat that they have control over, yes, but combat nonetheless. Um, so that's just level one. Again, you introduce the things that define the characters in the first two level, and this does such a great job at introducing the defining features right at level one. Level two, you still get the same fighting style choices, which again, I don't understand the defense and dueling, since they don't really fit with the ranger. However, with the new favorite enemy, I could see dueling being more useful as a ranger that uses um, a longsword or a rapier, something like that. It doesn't really fit with what most classic rangers were, but I could see it working, and adding in the favorite enemy. You could still keep pace to damage wise with a fighter through the lower levels. As they get higher, you become more specialized. Um, but otherwise, it's a choice between, am I a shooty shooty, or am I a slicey slicey? The other thing you get at second level is spellcasting. Same as before. Again, Hunter's Mark is their kind of defining spell. You really have to take it. They haven't really changed that in this version, and I really would like them to, because again, any system where they give you a choice, but there is one choice that is clearly better than the others, it isn't a choice at that point. It's them giving you an ability and then allowing you to handicap yourself if you want. And that's not a choice. That's just, it's a bad design. So that's the only thing I don't like about that is, put hunter's marks somewhere into the ranger if you want it. You can limit it more, since it's not going to cost spell slots or something, but it should be built in. Um, to me, I think it should be an aspect of favorite enemy. Um, Probably not just affecting your favorite enemy. I like Hunter's Mark, as you can do that to anyone, and again, it fits into that hunter theme of, I'm going to focus on you. I'm going to take you out, and then I go to the next. So that makes sense. Um, uh, but yeah, so that again, spellcasting, lots of spells. Um, Third level, you get primeval awareness, which uh, is misspelled, I think, because it's primeval awareness in this. But anyway, um, uh, it's very similar as the one before. Again, before it was, you spend a minute, and you can tell if one of your favorite enemies is within 5 miles of you. You don't know where they are, can't tell how many. You just kind of get this ping. Oh, there's a dragon nearby. Again, kind of. useless in the original. Um, this changes things pretty differently. First, it gives you the innate ability to communicate with beasts as they recognize you as a kindred spirit. Again, fits into that idea of it's a nature warrior. They're one with nature. They can talk to animals. Um, through sounds and gestures, you can communicate simple ideas to a beast as an action and can read its basic mood and intent. You learn its emotional state, whether it's affected by magic, and its short-term needs like food. Um, and actions you can take to persuade it to not attack. So this is very much a crocodile hunter, type thing where you can stare it down, you can communicate roughly, and you can learn how to make it not attack you. You can't use that ability on a creature you've attacked within the last 10 minutes. So it's not like in the middle of the fight, you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Nope, doesn't work that way. Um, but that again is a brand new thing. It's not really a combat ability, but we've already had two things that had a lot of combat use. So this really fits in with. You can use it a lot because beasts are everywhere, and it gives you an actual useful thing. Like you come across, a tiger or something, and your party doesn't want to attack it, your ranger can come forward, calm it down long enough for your party to go away. Um, so really useful, very hunter themed. And it again, any ability should feed into those ideas of the ranger, and this kind of feeds into that natural explorer um, idea of nature and everything. So it fits much better than before. You also have the old ability where um, you spend a minute in concentration. You can tell if you have a favorite enemy within 5 miles. However, this is a much more specific. It reveals which favorite enemy, because you do get another one eventually. Which favorite enemy is there? You know their numbers and the general direction and the distance in miles from you. So this is a lot more than ping. Oh, there's a dragon somewhere. This is there's two dragons roughly that way, about 2 miles away. That's such a big difference. And it makes it actually useful. There really wasn't a useful use for it before, unless you were afraid that a dragon was stalking you, and then or something was stalking you, and then you only knew if it was within 5 miles. So this much better, gives you a location, a heading, a number. It's really useful. Um, and then third level, you will also choose your conclave, which we'll go into in a little bit. Fourth level, ability score improvement, same thing as always. Improve ability scores or choose a feat. Um, Sixth level, you get greater favored enemy, which again fits into this idea of your rangers or these hunters, stalkers. As they get higher levels, they become even better at stalking their favorite enemies. First, you get to choose a type of a greater favorite enemy, which are aberrations, celestials, constructs, dragons, elemental fiends, or giants. Um, so you basically get another favorite enemy, but these are tougher creatures in general. Like you really don't find weak dragons, um, and stuff like that. So that definitely is a good thing. You get all the benefits against this chosen enemy that you normally gain against your favorite enemy. So it literally is a second favorite enemy. Um, including an additional language, so you've learned another language, and your bonus to damage rolls against all your favorite enemies increases to 4. So now you're even better at it. Um, Now, the other thing that makes this really interesting is as you get higher levels, you start seeing a lot of creatures have less just straight up attacks and a lot more abilities that cause saving throws because AC will eventually kind of peak, but saving throws, they're a big deal. So against greater, against your greater favorite enemy, you have advantage on saving throws against spells and abilities. So this doesn't affect your just regular favorite enemy, which could be humans. So high level mages, you won't get this. But against a dragon with a breath attack, again, you hunt dragons. You know about their breath attacks, so you have advantage on avoiding the attack. Makes perfect sense. Feeds into the hunter aspect of the ranger, um, and has actual useful benefits. So I really like that. It's a sixth level ability, um, which really means the ranger can be really good at low to mid levels, like tier 2 to tier 3, early parts of tier 3. Ranger is going to be really fun to play and really good without having to rely on magic items and things like that to bring them up to the level of the other characters. Eighth level, you can use the dash action as a bonus action on your turn. Now, rangers start to become very bonus action heavy because you have hunter's mark, uses your bonus action. If you're a two weapon ranger, your offhand attack uses your bonus action. Now you have fleet of foot as your bonus action. Um, which I don't think is a bad thing. Again, just like the monk, where almost all their abilities are bonus actions, it makes you have to make a decision. Do I want to do more damage this round? Do I want to move my mark this round? Do I want to move fast this round? Um, None of them are always going to be the right answers. So that in my mind is good design, giving you choices that have actual consequences. um 10th level, you get hide in plain sight. We talked about this before. It was pointless. You had to waste a minute staying in one place, covering yourself, and then if you moved at all or took any actions, it was all over and you had to do it all again. There wasn't any reason. Now it's changed to when you attempt to hide on your turn, you can opt to not move on that turn. Again, this is giving you choices. I can move this turn, or I can hide this turn. If you avoid moving, creatures that attempt to detect you take a -10 penalty to their wisdom perception checks until the start of your next turn. So this doesn't give you a bonus to your hide check. It gives them a uh, uh, minus to their perception checks to find you. Mechanically, it works the same. Lore wise, though, it makes a lot more sense. You're not hiding better. You're They're having a harder time seeing you, and it doesn't take them a minute. Um, you lose this benefit if you move or fall prone. You're still automatic detective if any effect or action causes you to no longer be hidden. And if you're still hidden on your next turn, you can continue to remain motionless and gave this benefit until you are detected. Significantly more useful, fits with the natural warrior part of this, where they can just find a wall or tree or something and blend in because they understand nature. They understand what people see in nature. So much better, actually useful, though in limited cases. 14th level, you get vanish. You can use hide as a bonus action. and you can't be tracked by non-magical means unless you choose to leave a trail. Um, Again, useful. 14th level is a little high for it to be that useful. However, when you see it combined with hide in plain sight, um, that becomes very, very useful, because now you can bonus action hide, and as long as you haven't moved on your turn, you can take your attack, bonus action hide, and it's significantly harder for them to find you, and you don't have to waste an action to do it. Um, so I think that's a much better way, and I think that makes Vanish a little bit more useful. Feral Senses is very similar to it before. Um, if you can't see a creature, you can still make attack rolls against it like you could, and you're aware of the location of any invisible creature within 30 feet of you. Um, Now, one thing it does change is, believe the old one, they didn't get advantage uh, attacking you from invisibility, because you could see invisible creatures. This is just, the location of them. So they theoretically could still have advantage attacking you. You can just attack back without disadvantage, which again gives a nice balance for an 18th level ability. It's okay when you combine it with everything else. It's a decent high powered ability. Certainly not the best in the book, but it's not bad. And because we've already talked about how the ranger is now a lot more powerful, a lot more dangerous in combat. It kind of feeds in, and again, it actually fits in with the, you know uh, warrior hunter type, where even if they can't see them, they still can attack what they can't fully see. Um, so that makes sense. And then 20th levels foe slayer. It's the same thing as before. Add your wisdom mod to either attack or damage. Um, Again, as a 20th level of ability, it still feels a little weak. But again, with how much more powerful the ranger is, it's much better than it was before. So it's better. It's not great. Conclaves. Um, Again, they have three conclaves. I'm only going to talk about two, because these are the translations of the archetypes from the PHB. And I mentioned in the other video, Beastmaster Rangers are just broken. They're Everything fights against itself. It's just not good. Um, this is not that. The first conclave is the Beast Conclave, and boy, does it fix most of the problems with the Beastmaster Ranger. First thing you get with the Beast Conclave is, the you get your animal companion, just like before. They have a few more companions to choose from than the other list. The other list was more just like any creature that was, 1/4 challenge rating. This actually lists ape, black bear, boar, giant badger, giant weasel, mule, panther, or wolf. All of those could have been companions, but before, this one specifically lists them, which is nice. Um, it costs you 50 gold worth of stuff to get your beast companion. It takes you 8 hours. So, um, just again, more of an idea, making them feel more valuable. Um, and yeah, it talks about how to raise your companion if it dies. Same but basic stuff as before. However, now they have this thing called companions bond, which is before, just in the text it said, oh, by the way, we're changing this, we're changing this, we're changing this. and it was just modifying the animal. This, they have a specific ability called Companion's Bond that changes how the animal works to make it work better in the game. Um, first thing first, uh, it loses its multi attack, just like before, and again, that's a balancing action economy kind of thing. And I'll explain as we go on further. You'll see that that's not that big a deal, to be honest, and they make up for it a lot. Um, the other really big thing before, the companion acted on your initiative and could only really move on its own. At higher levels, it could do things like help use the help action, but it always cost either your bonus action or your action, and it just wasn't worth it. This one, it rolls for initiative, like any other creature, but you determine its actions, decisions, uh, attitudes, and so on. So you literally are getting an animal companion, not a bastardized version of, like a third limb or something like the old one was. It has its own initiative. It has its own actions and reactions, and can take those actions without using yours, which is a big deal. Again, action economy, you have just added another player to the board, which changes things drastically. And I think the way that they do this makes it advantageous to be a ranger, not to the point where it's broken, and actually makes it so a beast conclave ranger can actually be useful. Um, it benefits from your natural explorer feature, the movement aspect of it, um, and uh, other things. It uses your proficiency bonus instead of its proficiency bonus, which is just, it's basically the same as before, but it's worded a little bit clearer, and you still add proficiency bonus to AC and to its damage rolls, so it gets more powerful as it goes. The next thing it changes, it gets proficiency in two skills of your choice, which again makes it useful outside of combat, and it also becomes proficient with all saving throws, which means in combat, when you're facing a spellcaster, your companion just isn't dying all the time. Being proficient in all saving throws means you add your proficiency bonus to all its saving throws. It's actually going to make saves every so often. That's a good thing. For each level you gain after third, your animal companion gains an additional hit dice and increases hit points accordingly. Instead of just a flat 4 hit points a level, it's based on its hit dice and its constitution modifier, which is how everything else works as far as getting hit points. So now the hit point gain is going to be a little bit better, and it's going to be able to stay toe to toe with you through much more of the campaign. Uh, Whenever you gain the ability score improvement class feature, your companion's abilities also improve. Yes, it actually gets better at what it does as you get better. So it can gain ability score points. So if you want to shore up one of the abilities scores that it's really bad, you can do that. Or if you want to make it even better at what it was before, you can do that. Again, this makes the Beast Companion uh, and the PHB, once you get to about level 5 or 6, the companion is worthless. This, it isn't. It can stay toe to toe with you all the way up through tier 4 content, because now it grows and gets better with you, instead of kind of staying static, except getting a couple more hit points every level. Um, and then it talks about, it shares your alignment, it has personality traits and flaws, stuff like that. um, and then Your animal companion gains the benefit of your favorite enemy and your greater favored enemy feature. So yeah, the things you're good at killing, so is your animal companion, which again feeds back into the natural warrior aspect of it. Even your companion is really good at killing the things that you're good at. So yeah, much more useful, and it just gets more useful as you go on. Coordinated attack at fifth level, when you use the attack action on your turn, if your companion can see you, it can use its reaction to make a melee attack. So now you can attack with your beast, and it doesn't take your bonus action, doesn't take your action, it takes your beast's reaction. So now it's the beast doing thing, not you having to sacrifice your own abilities so that your beast can do something useful. And since it gets, favorite enemy and greater favorite enemy, it can actually do something worthwhile. Seventh level gets beast defense. While your companion can see you, it has advantage on all saving throws. Again, these things are not very strong. They can't use magic items. They can't use a lot of things. So giving them advantage on saving throws means they're going to live long enough to be able to do more things. 11th level Storm of Claws and Fangs. Um, it's a whirlwind attack. They can make an attack roll against everything within 5 feet. Because they're a lot tougher and tankier than they were before, it's not quite as bad as it was before, where or it is for a ranger where they have to run into danger and then get hurt. Your beast companion is going to be a little bit more built for running into danger than you are. So again, it's not my favorite thing because I still don't like that I have to run into a group of enemies and hope that there's enough of them within 5 feet for me to make this worthwhile. But it's still relatively useful. Um, 15th level, you get superior beast defense, which is whenever an attacker that your companion can see hits it with an attack, it can use its reaction to half the attack's damage against it. Again, making it much bulkier, much tankier. It's basically um, the rogue ability that for the life of me, I can't remember. Uncanny dodge. There it is. It gives your beast uncanny to dodge. Very useful. Now, one thing you may have noticed, and that's the end of the beast conflict. One thing you may have noticed: Rangers don't get extra attack at fifth level. Like almost every other melee class gets extra attack. The only one that doesn't is rogue. So rangers don't get extra attack. With the beast conclave, basically their um, companion turns into their extra attack. So that kind of works. However, with the hunter conclave, it's basically the exact same as the hunter archetype, um, where you have hunters prey at third level, where you get Colossus Slayer, Giant Killer, or Horde Breaker. The difference being at fifth level, they get extra attack to kind of make up for the fact that they don't have a beast companion. They get an extra attack, which again, the old PHB version, Beastmaster, you made so many sacrifices to be a Beastmaster that Hunter was really the choice you needed to make. You would be handicapping yourself to be a Beastmaster. With the new one, Hunter has its pluses, like the extra attack for the hunter will get your hunter's mark damage, whereas the beastmaster, when your beast attacks, it doesn't get your hunter's mark. So again, you have this choice of, well, do I want a second person on the board, or do I want to do more damage myself? And again, the hunter can go either way with shooty or slicey slicey. As the same thing is true of the Beastmaster. Neither one lends itself really heavily to being either ranged or melee, which again gives you choices, not requirements. So that's where the extra attack comes in. And then literally everything else is exactly the same as the hunter. So defensive tactic, which is escape the horde, multi-attack defense, steal will. Multi-attack is either volley for your ranged or whirlwind attack for your melee, and then superior hunter's defense is either evasion, uncanny dodge, or stand against the tide. Again, having evasion and uncanny dodge at 15th level, where most other classes get it somewhere into tier 2 that do get it, still feels a little bit limiting. But again, with how much better the hunter is and how many other things they can do, it's not nearly as limiting, because now, yeah, they can't use evasion until 15th level. However, they have advantage on their initiative rolls, and can get into combat and take out the things that would be uh, casting spells that require evasion right at the get go. And once you get to higher levels, that becomes significantly more difficult. Um, so yeah, again, is it a perfect class? Absolutely not. But you can see how they've fixed a lot of the issues with it, where all of the abilities now feed into each other instead of fighting against each other. You know, now you're getting um, now you're getting people that can are characters that can actually use all of their abilities. All their abilities feel useful, and they don't feel like they're just kind of a detriment to the party. Where fighters can attack better than them, and druids can cast spells better than them. Literally, they can. The PHB version of the ranger is very much a jack of all trades, a master of none, which is the same basic thing as a bard is supposed to be. A bard is supposed to be a jack of all trades, but bards have a niche, and they have special spells that only they can use, and they can be very powerful characters in fifth edition. But the um, ranger can't. Like literally anything it does, another class does better or can do earlier than them. And now with this, they have quite a few things that are very unique to them, and it makes playing a ranger right from level 1 feel unique. You don't feel like just a a nature based fighter, or a fighter that just likes sleeping in trees. You don't feel like just a druid that's better with a sword, anything like that. You feel like a ranger, and that's what I like about this so much, and that's why I feel this is a much better design class. Um, if you guys are interested, I can do things like Xanathar's Guide has a couple new ranger archetypes. Um, and I can go through those and show how they kind of shore up a few issues with the ranger and make them much more playable. Let me know in the comments below if you want to hear more ranger stuff, or if you want me to start going to other things. I know today, or not today, I think a couple days ago, they released another Unearthed Arcana, just giving more subclasses and stuff like the Monk and Barbarian I did before. So I'm more than happy to do that stuff as well. Otherwise, yeah, like I said before, if you haven't seen the other Ranger video, it's there'll be a link to it in the description. So go check that one out. Um, Again, I'd love to hear your own experiences playing a Ranger in fifth edition, if you've done it, or in any previous editions, because again, I think this Ranger is a lot closer to previous edition Rangers than the PHB one is. So it's always nice to hear how it used to be played and compare it to how it fits into fifth edition now. Otherwise, that's all for me, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, bye.